I am ready.
Okay, great.
Ready as I was, ready.
Welcome, Amber, to Be the Glitter, where we talk about tough topics with giggles and spread inspiration that sticks like glitter. The reason I invited you to this is because I know every single time I open up LinkedIn, I'm going to have several inspirational posts from you in my feed. And I
Happy
love
to
every
hear that.
single one of them.
I mean, I do. I love glitter, by the way. I love playing. I love wearing glittery stuff. But I do like, being a positive view of a transgender woman. Trying to shine, trying to sparkle, and trying to pour that into other people. It's just kind of a mission of mine, is especially in the transgender community, inspiring them to be able to navigate life and talk about my own experiences. I think, I get very real, very vulnerable, um, because, and that's not me. If you're gonna really knew me before I started down this path, I'm not really that comfortable being that vulnerable. But then I started thinking about it, and I do. For a transgender woman, I have a certain amount of privilege. I get paid, fairly well. Um, and, it kind of affords me things that maybe other people don't have. But through it all, I love my life. And if I can inspire just one other transgender person to arrive at a place where they can live life, where they can walk in confidence, we can, maybe learn a couple things from me and hopefully other transgender influence on how to navigate a very, very challenging life. It'd be incredibly selfish for me not to be vulnerable. So that's kind of what's helped me through being able to be open, real, honest, talk about sometimes some tough things with candor.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I do not want to be selfish. I do want to hopefully inspire a person to along the way. I arrived at becoming a openly transgender woman through a bout with cancer in my 60s. It really made me think about life and if I happen to die on the operating table while they're removing it, I thought how tragic that would be to have gone through life and never live authentically. So having come out of it, I started thinking how tragic it is. There's other people that might arrive there too. And I don't want that for other people. Somebody's in their 20s, I want them to seize it now. Somebody in their 30s, I want them to seize it now. I want them to look at me and know you can navigate life as an openly transgender, non binary, whatever it is, person and enjoy life and
Yeah.
not wait for that tragedy or, God forbid, not go to your grave never having experienced one day of authentic life. So, kind of my mission.
I love it. I love it. I have my own personal story of going through something not the same, but having a realization of, okay, now that I'm starting everything all over again, how do I make sure I live the rest of my life as authentically as I possibly can? And that's what I came out as bi and a writer and just did everything I could to just be as colorful and bold and uplifting and creative as I possibly could be. I was sick of dimming myself down and hiding under a rock, which is funny because other people, I'm like 97% extrovert. So people in my past would have been like, you were actually hiding under a rock and that's how you were living your life.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
was, protecting a lot,
The
especially protecting
reality,
what was going on behind the doors. Yeah.
you don't even realize everything it impacts. So, at the end of the day, it impacted literally every relationship I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
There's this huge part of me that kept to myself. Um, that I didn't really let people get very close. It might have associations and stuff like that, but it was kind of like you want to go for drinks after work, always some lame excuse. A lot of that was, especially, again, I'm in my 60s. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. It was very tough being me back then. And So kind of learned through fear and intimidation, bullying, that it wasn't okay for the world to see who I was, and then never really trusted people to be able to share that because, if I let them get too close and they learn that part of me, they might out me. For the longest time, they could cost me my job and just all the other consequences that go with it. Uh, could end up being killed. Especially going back in the 70s, 80s, even into the 90s. So yeah, you grow up not, you are under a rock. You have surface relationships. Nobody, you're never vulnerable enough where everybody fully, truly knows you. And then start even beginning to let people truly know me until I came out. And it's like, okay, not in a rock anymore. So what you see is what you get. If you like me, obviously you like me for who I am, Amber Fourman, the transgender woman. I also decided I navigated life based on everybody's biases. I shaped who I was based on the biases. I was everybody else's version of me. I was my schoolmates' version of me, then ultimately my employer's version of me. The relationships I was in, I was their version of me. And when I came out, it's like, kind of like, screw this. I'm going to be my version of myself. So that was kind of the first thing. I'm not going to just let biases decide who I am. I'm not going to navigate life anymore. I tend to think of it as I developed a pretty healthy, I don't give a shit. People can have biases, but I am not going to change who I am for those biases. So um, they can have biases, free world, but they get to keep them. I am not going to take those biases onto myself and let them affect how I feel about myself. I'm not going to let them affect how I navigate life. So there was that. I also thought about the fact that I lived in the closet of masculinity. I was probably the most feminine thing on the planet until I was around 15, um, just naturally feminine. And then I started learning what traits about me were feminine and how to hide them in a masculine closet. So I tend to feel like I transitioned to masculinity. When I did come out, I decided I am not hiding being a transgender woman in the closet of femininity. A lot of transgender people focus on passing and, um, if that's who they are, that's what they want, okay, I'm not going to judge them. I just decided it wasn't me.
Yeah.
I've been told I pass. Okay, nice. Not important to me. Somebody's going to know I'm a transgender woman in 30 seconds after talking to me. I'm going to talk about transitioning or, showed up in Columbus as a dude and a week later I was full-time, Amber. But I'm not going to hide in the closet of femininity. I'm not going to hide the fact I'm a transgender woman anymore. It's going to be out there on my social media, right up top, the headline, transgender woman.
Yeah.
Um, I am proud to be a transgender woman. Number one, number two, when I made that decision, I said if I'm going to navigate life as a transgender woman, I'm going to do my best to rock it. I'm going to be absolutely the best version of myself. The person I care about the most is myself. When I look in the mirror, how do I feel about myself? And I really don't, like I said, give a shit about how anybody else feels. All I care is, am I being the best version of myself today? And I navigate life through that. And it's weird because people, I think, tend to sense that and they respond to it in a positive way. So I do find myself being able to navigate life a lot easier than the experiences I read of a lot of other transgender women. So if I can inspire other transgender women to do the same thing, look in the mirror. That's the only person that matters. Care about that, nothing else. Right? Don't care about some artificial standards. It's like women setting artificial beauty standards for themselves. Passing is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a high bar that it adds all this like angst and stuff like that. Be
Yeah.
a little better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. Let that be enough.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you know, it's like you care less and less about all this artificial stuff. And then people see this, whatever it is. People tell me they see me as extremely confident. Never really thought of myself that way, but if that's what they see, okay. But you're able to interact with people. When you carry all that, you almost go in through in every situation with an expectation people are going to be biased against you. And so you already have this kind of built up, you know, sensor, like, okay, that was biased, and I'm going to respond to it with certainly. I see bias. It's like I actually am to the point now where I kind of chuckle to myself and I think, you know something? I'm living in that person's head rent free. They're gonna go home and tell someone, you won't believe what I saw today, it's like that. I'm gonna go home and I'm not gonna give them another thought.
Yeah.
So, kind of who's doing it better, me or the person that happens to exhibit some bias against me? Like I said, living in their head rent free, and I'm not giving them another thought. I'm enjoying life, loving my life. Absolutely. I had my friend like today, I said something about it happened. I'm like, I just love my life. And she's like, I know, you say that all the time, you know, but it's true. I don't think about my life based on other people's thoughts. It's a cool way to navigate life, especially at my age.
Oh, absolutely. Like I'm turning 50 this year. So I'm not like super young, but somebody reminded me, you've got the rest of your life to live. And I love
Yes,
what you said about how what all the things that you were just saying reminded me of how you truly have to love yourself if you're going to love anybody else. And why not? That's been the biggest question lately, has been like, why not? I mean, sure, haters are going to hate. And unfortunately, now there is violence associated with some of those people. However, I honestly believe that we can keep building our support system with those who truly love us for who we truly are, and we can keep each other safe. We can keep collecting ourselves into one, I think I keep saying like one big, huge tidal wave, like this big tsunami of us. Like nobody can crush us. We are too strong when we all come together and support each other.
absolutely. Every day we get to choose whether we focus on the negative things that we encounter or the positive things. We can focus on the people that love us, the people that support us, the people that care for us, our allies, friends, chosen family. I realized when I came out that I wasn't going to have, much in the way of real family. But I have this wonderful chosen family that loves me more than I've ever been loved by my real family ever, because they only loved the version of me they wanted me to be. They didn't really love me. They didn't really want to get to know me. Whereas these people love me for who I am, and they do want to get to know me. And so I can focus on that, or I can focus on some flashes of bias or other stuff, and
Yeah.
focus on that, and focus on any negative things and stuff like that. I choose to focus on the positive things that might happen. How much I love myself. So you said about loving yourself, and I did come to that realization, like how would it be possible for me to love somebody for myself? But I still didn't love myself. Wasn't crazy about um, everything about me and stuff like that. And I've been a work in progress. But one day in September, I was driving to work, and I said I love myself, and it was like wow, where did that come from? Like, was that real? I started analyzing it. Like, was that like hormones kicking in, my HRTs like hit some level, emotions, or do I really love myself? And I started thinking about things like different people in my life, and just different things going in my life. And I'm like, I really do love myself, and how cool is that? Um, and just you know, since then it's just been like building on that, and I do. I love my life. I love myself. I had somebody tell me because it used to be like somebody say like, "You're beautiful," and I literally never saw that. Like I saw myself as presenting myself well, but I didn't look in the mirror and say, "Wow, like you rock," or "You're beautiful," or "You're gorgeous," or anything like that. But people would repeatedly tell me that. And my response was, "Well, thanks, but that's not what I say when I look in the mirror. But I really appreciate it." And somebody said, "Amber, you need to start saying that when you look in the mirror because you are beautiful, and you need to start seeing that in yourself." And now I find myself like, I'll be like, kind of at work, go to the restroom, and look in the mirror. I'm like, damn, can I say the F word?
Yeah,
Like,
do it.
damn, your blood is fucked today. And it's like at first I was like, wow, but I do see beauty in myself. I do see what other people have been saying. And now I'm able
That's
to appreciate
awesome.
somebody says you're gorgeous. And it's like, well, thank you so much. That was so kind of you to say that. Appreciate it. Um, and I've always been a type of person where I compliment other people. Like, wow, you make that top look really good. Not that top makes you look good. Um, you know, do something different in your hair. Your hair's like really rocking it today, or whatever. Um, and stuff like that. And I'm able to receive compliments graciously and kind of enjoy it and all that. I don't do me for those compliments, but what woman doesn't love compliments? What woman doesn't love another woman building them up? And it is, why I think it's so important that we compliment other women. Notice the little things. Notice when their hair changes, whether it's color, cut, style, whatever, and let them know that they're really rocking that outfit, and that outfit's better because they're wearing it. Those shoes are better because they're on their feet, whatever it is. So like that, it's kind of a cool way to go through life.
And I agree that my New Year's resolution is to believe people when they tell me I'm beautiful, because that is so difficult to do. And I think what I am hearing is that the more you are who you truly are, the more beautiful you get to be from the inside out. Because I think authenticity truly does that. And then you get to attract, we get to, people get to attract the people who truly belong in our lives, who truly make our
Absolutely.
lives lovable. And that's why we get to love life, is because you get to be brave enough to be authentic and attract the people who appreciate you for who you are. And there can be a symbiotic relationship instead of this compartmentalized performance all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I had somebody say to me, Amber, you get more compliments than anybody I know. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like Sarah, I can't argue with you. I never really thought about it, but I will get compliments in rapid succession. And again, I don't do me to seek compliments. It's like I like, the version of me today. I'm a better version tomorrow. I did my makeup a little better or whatever it is, or, wow, that was, kind of a cool top you picked out. I feel like I'm rocking it, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I do it for my pleasure, for me feeling good about me. But people respond to it, and I'm like, no, I can't argue with you. And then after that, I was like, I lived 62 years of unremarkable. People didn't remember my name. They didn't compliment me. Kind of was like a head down, kind of don't make eye contact, keep to myself, kind of a person. Since I became authentic, I'm able to be like the real me is able to come out. And you're right, people respond to it.
Yeah.
We do engage and people lately especially people like I really love your vibe, you have such a vibe about you or whatever, and like I don't know what it is. I mean, but whatever. Well, that's cool. I'm just being me, I'm just being authentic Amber. And how cool is it that like people like that? And it's so weird because having lived that just anonymous life, people not remembering me, not you know now there's so many places where literally like it's almost like I have a sense of how a rock star feels, not that I'm that level, but I will have an innocuous conversation with somebody 6 months ago and then like run into them and they're like, Amber, how are you? And I'm like, first of all, how do you remember my name? I don't remember your face. But repeatedly, even to the point, I've had people walk up to you, "Hi, Amber, how you doing? I know you don't know me, but like I saw you and I just had to, like know who you are. So I asked, and somebody told me you're Amber, and I'm so and so, and it's so nice to meet you, or whatever." And it's like that was different. That was a very different experience, especially the 62 years I've had prior to that. But then I realized I'm not going to live another 62 years. It's kind of
You never
bullish
know.
to you never know.
There could be some
But
amazing invention that like
Realistically, though, right now, today, in today's world, I'm not
Okay,
going
okay, okay.
years, but I want to seize every day of every year, year I have left, however many it is, 7, 10, 20, 30, doesn't really matter. I want to seize every single day, and I just want to enjoy the heck out of it and just, go through life, like I said, looking at the positive things in my life and just, you know, doesn't mean I'm not going to have some down days. That would be foolish to think I don't. I do.
Right.
Every does.
It's
But
balance.
I want to navigate through them as quickly as possible. And I want to focus when I find myself there. I want to focus on all the cool things, all the people that love me, all the things I enjoy doing in life, and pull myself out of those kind of, had a setback, got knocked on my butt or whatever moments. And I do find myself more and more cycling through those negative moments and getting back to the, just walking in joy, smiling, interacting with people, joking around, authentic, you know, the me version of me.
Sounds like you're living more in abundance than scarcity.
Absolutely. And I want that so much for our community. I realize what we're up against, but we can own a certain amount. Like, yes, things suck and there's laws going on all the time and stuff like that. I want to impact what I can. So yes, I want to get, and I'm continuing to move more in, the moving in advocacy. I want to move more into, um, being on the front lines, showing up at the courthouse, figuring out how. I would love to be one of those people I've seen on YouTube where they're testifying and they're changing people's minds. They were going to vote, against transgender people, and that person wins the day. Like, please, help me figure out how to do that. I want to be that person. I want to do positive stuff for my community. And I can't do that if I'm not positive myself. And if some of that can rub off onto other transgender people and they can kind of learn to live in the day and find as much positive in the day and not focus on all this bad news going on and all these laws, I pay attention to it. But it's just like bias. I don't let it impact how I feel about myself or my life. I try and figure out how I can impact that. How can I invade conservative spaces, MAGA spaces, whatever,
Mhm.
as a positive influence for the transgender community? I'll give you an example. I enjoy playing poker and I'm pretty decent at it. I have over $5,000 worth of ink on me, funded by poker winnings. So, I do kind of know what I'm doing. But I sat down next to somebody and they had a Donald Trump card cover. And I
Wow.
used to shoot back from that, like, okay, they don't like me and stuff like that. I happen to have a transgender heart card cover. I moved my heart over next to Donald and showed the other people at the table I'm not intimidated by MAGA. Eventually, they left, I stayed. So instead of me shrinking back from that space, they shrunk back from me. That's what transgender people need to do, not shrink back from that self.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's scary, but the other part of me, and again, I am almost 65 now, I've lived my life in fear. I refuse to allow fear to rule what I'm going to do. I go anywhere, I go everywhere. If it is illegal for me to go into a woman's restroom, which it is in some places, I have two choices. I can go in there and take a chance of going to jail, or I can go into the men's restroom and have a heck of a lot of fun. And I'm leaning towards, I'm going to go in the men's restroom. I am going to go into the most conservative bathrooms I can find. I am going to look like a hooker, and I'm gonna spritz my perfume on, and if I happen to overspray and some dude happens to spray smell like me, and I'm gonna walk out of the bathroom the same time they are, maybe like touch their arm gently and laugh and giggle and thank them for so much fun and maybe shove $100 bill in my pocket and go back in and find the next conservative person that I can make their wives really nervous. If that's what you want, if you want me to use the men's restroom, I'm not going to be afraid to use the men's restroom. I
Yeah.
am going to rock it, and I am going to make every other man in there as uncomfortable as I possibly can. And I'm going to make their conservative wives like, why are women buying into this stuff? Don't you realize they want you in the two places you belong? They want you back in the bedroom, the kitchen, pregnant, and not exercising your voice and all that. So if you buy into this, I am going to make you as nervous about what your husband was doing in that bathroom as I possibly can. And I'm going to have so much fun with it. So please bring it on. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's a really fun way to talk about tough topics with giggles.
Again, we can choose to retreat back,
Yeah,
or we can just embrace it with joy and know this is something tough, but
yeah.
figure out, have fun with it. How about we have a girls' night, a girls' transgender night in the conservative bathroom? And we have as much fun with it as we can. How about that? Not shrinking back.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm blanking on the term where all of a sudden a whole bunch of people show up at a place and do a thing.
Flash,
Uh,
yes. Flash
yes,
mob, yes.
a flash mob.
Yes. Start doing some research. What is the most conservative restroom where there's likely to be wives waiting outside for their men to get done? And you want us to use men's restroom? That's the ones we're using.
Yeah,
Have it your, all right? I think your wives would be more comfortable if we were in the woman's restroom. And I don't know one woman that is afraid of me. I can't, I'm aware of it and stuff like that. And so I go, I'm there to do my business. I got to pee. I want to go pee. I'm done. I don't want to make people uncomfortable. And invariably, women stop me. Love your hair,
yeah,
your outfit. But you're really beautiful, whatever. And they're sitting there talking to me with their little, whatever, 6, 8-year-old daughter. They're not afraid of me.
yeah,
Why is it in 2025 men think that they need women to protect them when they are the problem? Look at the statistics. It is not
oh,
transgender
yeah,
women out there molesting children, raping women, and all that. It is straight white conservative men, time and time again. It's pastors, it's youth leaders, it's whatever. It is politicians, whatever. It's not us.
no. They're
I
just
was
using trans people as a scapegoat, as a like a, I hate to say shiny object, but as a distraction, to veer eyes away from all the Me Too movement that's already happened. And that was gaining such huge momentum. And now what? Now, oh, let's attack the trans people because obviously they're the ones who are aggressive. They're the violent ones. They're the ones doing all kinds of, I mean, what I hear is just stupid. And obviously the stuff of like bad comic books or something. And the reality, like you said, is that the people who are doing the accusing are just projecting onto a marginalized community. And I just find that to be so infuriating, and how people can't just change their minds, just open their eyes and accept reality.
not,
I don't
not
understand.
it's not can't, it's will. And there's like some,
It's true. Well,
I studied people my whole life because again, I kind of sat in the corner, was unnoticeable, and I've come to develop, and I don't have statistical background, but there's a couple of dynamics that I've come to realize. One, by far and large, most men, um, especially on the conservative side, and they've learned this in church and other places, and they brought us away, really truly believe they're the dominant species on the planet, king of the jungle. They're the top of the food chain. And it's also one of the reasons why they ignore transgender men, even though there's more transgender men than there are women. But you don't really hear about that. It's because they really think they're a dominant species. And the fact that somebody becomes a transgender woman, in their mind, You chose to downgrade. Why would any man, we're king of the jungle, choose to be an inferior species? And it kind of attacks them at the core of their own manhood. So you have that dynamic. And that's why it doesn't really, transgender men, it's like, nice try, you're still not part of the club, but, you had the right idea. You wanted to upgrade, not downgrade. So there's that dynamic. Then there's the dynamic that the reality, the ones that have the most pronounced biases, it is because there is things about themselves that they hate. And it might even be, some of them might even be, at the heart of it, might be transgender, it might be gay, who knows, whatever it is. There are things about themselves they hate. And rather than look in the mirror and fix, rather than do like we did, we fixed what we hate about ourselves. We became authentic. They're almost jealous of that. It's easier to take the hatred for themselves. And I hope there's biased men out there listening. This is your opportunity to change. Instead of focusing the hatred for yourselves on us,
Hmm.
do what we did. Start becoming authentic. Fix the things that you hate about yourselves. Stop projecting on us. And then there is a dynamic you touched on in the political realm. We are the shiny object. Don't look at our corruption. Don't look at the fact that politicians are getting filthy rich in both parties. Don't, this is not a Democrat Republican thing. Same team, different uniforms. Yes, I'm sure
Yep.
both sides, a couple decent altruistic people, but the reality is they get that political power. It corrupts them. They learn how to make more and more money at taxpayers' expense. If they can keep us divided, they can keep us divided, black against white, white against Latin, you know, transgender against straight. You can even see they're trying to create, like taking the T out. They're even trying to create a rift in the LGBTQ community.
Right.
The more they can keep us divided and the more they can find a shiny object, we're a small minority, 1%. We need a ton of allies to achieve. And really, it's like 15% of the planet really truly is in this category, maybe less. But we need 14, 15, 16 of the planet to be active allies. So again, small minority, it's easy to make us a shiny object to distract from the fact that we are robbing 99% of this planet blind, absolutely in their pockets every single day. And if we can keep them from focusing on that, we can keep our gravy train running. And we're just going to turn that focus on the transgender community right now. We're the shiny object. 50 years ago, Black people were the shiny object. Now we get to be that shiny object.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It's interesting even on this YouTube podcast when I put trans on the title, which I'm never going to stop doing. Those
you
are the videos that get the dislikes. And it's like this is such a tiny little
you know
podcast
what?
so far, you know.
I love it because you know what? If you weren't making an impact, they would just keep moving. Every single dislike, every troll, every negative comment, bring it on, please. You're telling me I'm making an impact, so thank you. You've just built up my ego. So please keep disliking, keep making negative comments, keep trolling. Love it, love it, love it. Makes me feel so good. So I hope you just keep
I'll
doing
just
it.
keep doing it. Right. And that's how I see it too.
Letting
It's
us
like,
know that we're making an
okay,
impact. Thank
I
you.
you looked,
Yes.
you did something. You actually gave
Yeah.
it a little energy and yeah,
You're
I
probably one of those people that, you know, don't want to fix what you hate about yourself and want to project on us. Either way, we made an impact. You stopped, you looked. Thank you. Appreciate it. Because if I didn't get that, then I would just think I'm just talking to people that already like me. I expect them to like me, and I'm not sure I'm making an impact on them. So I judge my impact by the negative stuff, not by the positive stuff. Positive stuff's great, but when I get that negative stuff, like, wow, I am supercharged. Like, I'm ready to go out and do another one.
I'm hearing some some fun mismatch of the messages I was hearing from some of my previous podcast hosts, like Allie West, one of my favorite people on the planet. She's just a gorgeous trans woman, also in Ohio, actually. Yeah, I'll introduce you to after
Oh,
this.
yes, definitely.
And she's just like she says similar things. Like I honestly wonder that if the only reason why people might hate me is because they can't love themselves. And you know what? That's their problem, not my problem.
Oh,
I'm going to
nothing
continue
wrong
being
with
who I am, and you're just going to have to deal with it because this feels too good to be finally myself. And then there's Connor Edwards, who's just this young, kind of recently out gay man in the UK who's created The Wandering Gaze. So he's like all around the world, like just documenting everything, dragging his tripod and his camera around, asking he calls himself an introvert, yet he's extroverting himself purposefully to
it. Yourself
ask
out there.
the questions, like, how do you feel safe in this hotel as a same-sex couple? And would you hold hands together and walk around publicly in this town and stuff like that? And his whole thing is feed the positive algorithm. And it's amazing how how much more positive your life gets. And that's exactly what you're doing, Amber. You're like feeding your own positive algorithm, and that's why you're surprising yourself with all of the beauty of your life. And on top of that, you're also just like, you just go ahead with your curious negativity.
The reality
We're
of
going
it
to use
is,
this as a teaching moment.
the reality of it is, whatever you want to put on, but let's just say, if somebody came to you and said, I want you to be miserable,
Right.
I want you to be downcast and just, I want you to be in fear and all that, and they were in your face and they said that, how would you respond?
That's
You'd
why I'm
say, oh,
divorced now.
hell no. Oh, no. That is not happening. The reality of it is, go back to the onion, they might not actually be saying those words, but that is what they're saying to us. So
Yeah.
let's give a result as if they're actually saying their words. Oh, hell no. I'm going to be even more joyful because guess what? My joy is my resistance. All right.
Yes.
My joy shows you you're not getting the result you want. So keep trying. The harder you try, the more joyful I'm going to be. So
And
nice try.
trans joy does
Yeah.
exist. It's happening
Yes.
right now. Let's celebrate that. Queer joy exists, and we are
Yeah.
so happy about that. And the more, again, we party and celebrate that together. And when I say party, I'm just meaning like this. Like, let's talk about it. Let's amplify it. Let's put it out there and just let's keep throwing that glitter that's going to show up in somebody's
Yes. Yes.
loafers. Let's
Let's preach it. Yes. Absolutely. Um, and again, hopefully it's infectious. We're infecting other people in our community
yeah.
to say, I can do that too. I kind of like that way of thinking, and I'm going to adopt it. I might not get there tomorrow, but I'm going to keep trying every day to be a little closer to that. And maybe also it inspires people to think, you know something? They're loving their authenticity so much. I'm going to start becoming authentic. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And then all of a sudden they find out that all that fear stuff and I mean I used to think, like to come out and transition meant I was going to live a very lonely life. I was going to have this kind of like, again, growing up in the 60s, 70s, being bullied, beaten, ostracized, excluded, all that.
Yeah.
I thought that that meant that I was not going to have any family, not going to have any friends, and I was just going to live this kind of solitary life. Again, I got to the point where I didn't give a shit, and I found out I have such a full life. I mean, just, like people that pour so much love. I mean, and I've had people tell me like, "Oh my God, Amber, when you come in, you like light up the room." I'm like, "I do," but it's like literally, you can just see in their face they're genuinely happy that you showed up. What a great way to go through life. And again, if we can inspire people that are where we were,
Yeah,
like for me, where I was 2.5
where
years
you were,
ago,
yeah.
if I can inspire somebody that's there to start taking steps to figure out how to get here, awesome. I mean, that is like so cool. Um, and then there becomes more of people like us that are walking in just joyful authenticity, and we're just like an unstoppable force. So at
Yeah,
some point in time,
we could
we
just
wear,
blind the darkness with our total fabulous light that we are just truly living a joyful, pleasurable life. I love how you said that joy is your resistance. My lady friend says every act of pleasure right now is a total act of rebellion. And I
oh yeah,
love that so much. And it is, thinking about my stupid past, it's like, yeah, like pleasure is my life right now, and it was not before. And I asked a similar question that you mentioned. It's like, why not? If we can live this beautiful life, being as authentic as we possibly can, actually enjoying ourselves, finding joy in our day, and if pleasure and joy have to be the way that we rebel,
yeah, yeah,
let's
absolutely.
just keep rebelling. I am part of the rebellion officially.
Yeah, I want to touch on another thing too, because it's been in the news a little bit in the last month or so. There's a lot been said about transgender regret, and so I'll raise my hand and say I have transgender regret. I regret that I didn't do this 40 years ago and start living authentically. That's the only thing I regret. I do not regret anything about transitioning, about coming out. I have zero regrets. And every single transgender person I talk to pretty much feels the same way.
Yeah.
So getting the truth out there about transgender regret, yes, it's real. We regret we didn't live authentically at a younger age. That's transgender regret. I
Hmm.
don't regret anything else. I don't regret going on HRT. I don't regret anything I've done medically. I don't regret um, transitioning socially. I don't regret sitting here feeling really good about the outfit I picked out today. I don't
It looks
regret changing.
fabulous on you and your
Thank you.
eyeshadow. It's really
Thank you.
good.
Yeah, I don't regret any of that. And I don't regret, um, actually letting the whole world know what my name really is, not that stupid name that happened to be at one time scrawled on my birth certificate.
Yeah.
I've been Amber in the closet for like whatever, almost 40 years. So it's nice to be Amber in the light and being joyful. So yeah, I have regret. I regret I didn't do this when I was 20. And I don't want other people to have the same regret because I don't regret, like I said, any of the other stuff that they try and say that trans people are going to regret. Don't believe that lie. You're not going to regret it. You're going to love every minute. Yes, you're going to have some tough times, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's like this golden highway and it's going to be easy every step of the way. No, there's going to be challenges, but at the end of the day, you're going to love just becoming more and more authentic and just growing and watching and seeing the person you've become, the person you always knew you were,
Hmm.
watching them take shape in the mirror and not seeing that old person anymore, seeing your authentic self in the mirror. What a revelation that was for me when like the day it's like holy shit.
Yeah. Well, and look how bright you
Hey,
just got
hey.
talking about that. I mean, that's undeniable. Like you just turned into a sun right there. That's awesome.
I mean, like what like I said, what a moment.
Yeah.
It was almost like this unconscious thing, and it became this a conscious thing. Like, wow, I am looking at Amber Fourman. There I am. Like I see me, the the person that has been trapped in here that I always knew I was. I see me, and guess what that means? The rest of the world sees me. So like, like wow, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So on this, Um, I want to say that I think a good message out there is that people don't have to make these life changes alone. And I
No,
think belonging and loneliness have been a more detrimental plague than COVID. It came around COVID. Well, it's been around, but
yeah,
it COVID really just sunk everybody into a loneliness and a despair that was a worldwide pandemic of its own. And so I think doubly as difficult, or doubly isn't even the right word, exponentially more difficult for those who know they're trans, were questioning being trans, and haven't allowed themselves to come out quite yet. How how do we help people find their support system so they don't have to be alone?
yeah, and you know, I just want to touch on loneliness, and I think I've talked to enough transgender people where it's similar. If I was to sum up my life before transitioning, it was loneliness, it was fear, and it was trauma. That's how I would sum up my life. None of that exists for me anymore. There's been a certain amount of loneliness when I first started transitioning, but to your point, support is out there and it varies from city to city. There are very, kind of, I would say under the radar, so to speak, but there are support groups that actually meet in person and they're very much, it's not like you go there and they're going to out you. Fortunately for this generation, we live in the internet age. I didn't have that when I was younger. I couldn't even begin to explore, even know who I was. I thought I was the only one on the planet until I read Christine Jurgensen's autobiography, and she talked about, feeling like she was a woman trapped in a man's body. And I'm like, holy shit, there's two of us. And then the internet came along, and the more you saturate yourself knowing that you're not the only one on the planet, number one is very healthy for you. And then start researching wherever you're at. Are there support groups? Where can I get plugged in? Um, I also would say find yourself a very good therapist that is well versed in the transgender community.
Hmm.
Let them help you through the process. And if they're well versed and they're seasoned in it, they're also going to be able to connect you. I have, someone that was connected to me by my therapist. They asked me if I mind. They're in the closet and they wanted to talk to, and they're older and they wanted to talk to a transgender woman that was their age. And I gave them the unsugar-coated. I gave them these are some of the challenges I faced, but this is what I love. I love the fact that my problems are real women problems. I broke a nail. I'm really not sure. Do I use this shade of eyeshadow or this shade for the top? I'm kind of torn because I like them both. Which one's it going to be? You know, love having those kind of problems. Not the problem of when am I going to be able to have some me time and where am I going to go and how well can I stick in the shadows so I don't come across somebody that knows me. It's going to, and those kind of problems. I don't have those
Yeah.
problems anymore. Like I said, I have really, really cool problems. Um, but again, it's there's no one golden bullet. There's tons of support out there. If you work for a company that has a similar as mine, kind of a LGBTQ oriented ERG, start looking. Like I actually found people that posted positive transgender messages. They're the first people that came out to my company. I'm like, hey, I really appreciate what you posted. Why, thank you. Chatted a little bit, and I, kind of felt comfortable. And I'm like, I'm seriously considering coming out. And they were very supportive, and they put me in touch with other people that are supportive. But like I said, there's no cookie cut answer,
Yeah,
but no, there is a wealth of support out there.
there is.
Internet's a starting place, but try and find that in person. Find a way to get connected, whether it's a therapist, a support group, whatever it is, your work's resource group. Find some of that in person contact, somebody that is going to walk with you. One of the comments I love about allies is you know when somebody's a really good ally when they're catching some of the fiery darts that are meant for you. So
Yes.
you find people that, yes, they're not transgender. They understand they have a, brother, sister, husband, child. They have somebody in their life. So they know what the transgender experience is, and they're willing to walk with you and help you through it and things like that. Tons of support out there. I found that out in, like whatever, quadruplicate. Again, I thought I was going to be lonely, unsupported, just figuring out on my own. And I just have more support in more different directions than I can imagine. So it's
Yeah.
out there, and you need to take the steps to start seeking it out. Yes, it can be scary at first, but if you're willing to swallow that fear and take the step, you're going to find people very supportive, very understanding, and they're going to help you walk you through the process. And then there's people like us
Yeah.
reach out to us. I have people reach out to me too, various ways, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I read something and I just want to share with you. I haven't come out yet on this. Can I ask you some questions? Sure. Ask away.
Yeah.
Love to give you some insight from my life. Been very talented. I'm just one person,
Yeah.
right?
And
Well,
connecting. Like we're
yeah,
connectors. And like you're in Ohio, I'm in Wisconsin. Like I I know people in Ohio and you know people all over the nation too. Like we can help somebody find somebody somehow. We're all only a few handshakes away from somebody who probably lives near that person who could use that support or an organization. Like you volunteer for so many organizations. Do you mind talking about that? Because you've had an enormously busy Pride Month, and I know that you're going to also carry out Pride celebrations for the rest of the year.
I am this year of all years. Pride doesn't need to be a day, doesn't need to be a month for our community. We need a pride year. We
Yeah,
need to let that rainbow shine throughout the rest of the year. Not a one and done, not a month, yay. We're celebrating the fact of what we've gained. Um, we need pride for the rest of the year because we're still marching, we're still rebelling, we're still protesting. Um, we still want better for our community. So let's just keep that march going through the rest of the year. Um,
yeah.
and I got so caught on that, I forgot the first part of your question.
Oh,
Um,
no, like you're volunteering so
oh,
much.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
there's just so many amazing organizations that people might not even realize. Like we were talking about that before we officially started the podcast.
yeah. So I'm in NAWIC, which is North American Women in Construction. I'm actually on there, and I'm in construction industry. So imagine that. I'm one of like three openly transgender women I'm aware of. I'm sure there are more, but it's not an industry you would necessarily put together um, with a transgender woman. Some people have told me I'm a trailblazer. I never really thought of myself that way. I just thought I want to live an authentic life. Happen in construction industry. Again, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do it. But yeah, I'm North American Women in Construction. I'm actually part of their national DI committee. Did a webinar with them, participated in meetings, and they have a heart for the LGBTQ plus community. I've developed some very good allies there, and do that. And I'm also in the work related women in construction group. I partner with other different diversity groups. I've always kind of had this heart for the underdog. It's kind of weird because when I was in the closet, I would champion everybody but like the transgender community. You know, somebody said something wrong, like off color about a woman. I'd be like, don't you have a daughter? Don't you have a wife? How would you feel if like a coworker said something like that about your wife or daughter? Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And then they make fun of a transgender person, and it's like, oh, if I say something about myself, I regret that. I wish I was, kind of bold enough to advocate for the transgender person as I was for, didn't matter, whatever minority it was. I was always root for the underdog, so I engage with other um, things, help out with different, kind of community focused charity things. On my company, I'm on the global employee resource group that is LGBTQ focused, which has been really cool. I've had, like just all these unbelievable engagements and then other connections through that with other companies and their DEI or DI or whatever, but diversity focused groups and what they're doing and being able to explore partnering opportunities with them. You know, been like I said, it's really cool, and the coolest thing is I get to show up as my authentic self. So here's
Yeah.
something like I did pancreatic cancer last year. Um, Noticed my authentic self. It was like really cool. You know, just trying to be that beacon amongst, I'm pretty sure I was the only openly transgender woman there, which you kind of get used to quite often, unless you're actually going into space you expect to see openly transgender women. But I take it as an opportunity to be an ambassador for the transgender community, and interact and talk to people and same thing. Like, wow, I really love your outfit. That green's good on you. Thank you so much. Like, really appreciate that. That was very kind. And I think you're rocking your outfit too. Whatever. Like I said,
Yeah.
you know, eh, community outreaches like that are great opportunities. First of all, they do tend to be like more queer friendly. Um, because a lot of them are the underdogs. Um, but it is a great opportunity to be an ambassador for your community, to let people see, positive transgender joy. I think it was pretty cool. Hopefully they go and talk to. I met this really cool transgender woman. Whatever that they have to say about it, and open somebody else's mind to transgender people and the transgender community. What an opportunity! Like seize it. Why not?
Yeah. And I think that that is it too. I think people have to quit turning people who are different from them into like the Sasquatch or the boogeyman or the Loch Ness monster. Like we are all humans, whether you're
Yes.
transgender or cishet or polyamorous or whatever. Like we're all humans, whether you're black or whether, you come from a third world country, which we're not saying that anymore, a developing country. Um, I think everyone has their own perspectives, their own backgrounds, their own baggage, their own beautiful heart. And some people have let their heart get trapped in wrought iron and steel, and they won't let it out. And but everyone has the capacity to. They truly, truly do.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, um, like you said, we're all humans. We all breathe. We all die someday. We all cut when we bleed. We all pay taxes. This do. Um, but that dying part, that's the reality. Every day we're dying. That's
Yeah.
the end game. We're gonna all die. Why not make people's journeys to their death, no matter how close or far away it is, a little better?
Right.
Why make it difficult? The other thing too is, especially, what you said applies for transgender people too. Like we're everybody out there is different. All right. Why go into every situation assuming every person that we come into contact is going to hate us? Is going to be biased against us? Why not go into every situation assuming that 85% of the people, because this is the most recent poll I saw statistically, 85% of the people in America have no problem with the transgender community. 15% don't. Why not go into every situation assuming in every group of people I run into, 85%, they have no problem with me. 15% are. Ignore that 15% and focus on the 85%. That gives you the ability to not look at everything with a microscope. I spoke to it earlier.
Hmm.
Some transgender people get so wound up on that 15% that hate them and portray it to the other 85% and they're ready, and so they seize on every little thing, like, why that person say that? Whatever. Um,
Which is another reason why we need our allies to speak up and stand up. Because if
yeah,
85% of our nation has no problem with transgender people, we need to hear more of those voices.
active allies.
Obviously, it's the minority who are louder and making big, disastrous changes. So we need more allies to stand up, speak up, take action, and like you said, like not only catch those fiery bullets, but do what they can, or fiery darts, but do what they
Either one.
can
I mean,
to
it's the same
do the
thing.
positive thing. Yeah.
We've got a target on our back, somebody shooting at us. Our true allies, our active allies, are catching the strays. They're feeling our pain. They are close enough to see and feel our pain when somebody's trying to hurt us. And really active allyship is they're providing us cover. They're standing with us. They're, speaking up. No, I don't want an ally speaking for me all the time, but I do
Not speaking
appreciate,
for you, but at
yeah,
least
I do
like
appreciate they
standing
them
up with
speaking with
you.
me when I need it. Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm happy to speak for myself, but it is nice if you know you're echoing or you're there speaking with me, and they know we're allies. So you come at me, you're coming at my ally. You come at my ally, you're coming at me. That's the way it is. And realize, let that 15% that is, again, you look at bullies, they're a small part of the planet. They feed off bullying others into exhibiting bullying behavior. If people stand up against bullies and the bullies start becoming, realizing how isolated they are, they find a different, they try and find a different target. We're no longer that shiny object because they realize it's not just us. You know, we've got 85 other people standing with us, and there's only, 15 of them. They're not going to pick on this group. They're
Yeah.
going to just, they're going to grow weary of that and go away, and they won't be as loud, and we will continue being louder and prouder and more able to live our life and live it freely without any sense of fear or bias.
And I think more people recognize that we all can have something in common. Like that that man who for whatever reason is uncomfortable being in the same room with a transgender woman, probably if he would just relax, would find something in common with that transgender woman. Like we all, that's what I try to get people to understand. I never want to speak for a trans person, but I think we can all understand that a lot of us humans have faced some kind of trauma. Some of us have faced some kind of adversity. A lot of us have had to overcome some pretty significant obstacles. And if we can't find empathy and compassion and love for other humans who have as well, well, then what kind of person are we? You
Yeah.
know, we're denying all kinds of humanity there.
But what are the other thoughts as you're saying that? And I believe there's other transgender women that get a similar experience. I've had instances where I think what bothers the man is they see something about me that's attractive, and it's like, oh, they're a transgender woman. I'm not supposed to feel that way. And that makes them uncomfortable or makes them not like us because it does something to them. You know, men look at men all the time and they're not gay and they can appreciate the fact that that's a handsome man. Women look at women other time, they're not lesbians and they can appreciate that's a beautiful woman. All right. Why can't you appreciate if you see a beautiful transgender woman, why can't you just appreciate the fact that they are beautiful and
Yeah.
not like make it let you feel icky?
Yeah.
It's
Just
just
don't
a
be
part.
creepy.
Yeah,
Like
we
maybe that's
we're
the hard part. There's too many men out there who just can't help themselves. They are creepy. And I
yeah.
know that's a fact. Like It is not fun when you find out that somebody you used to really admire and love is just actually a really creepy old dude. And it's like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Boy, did I get if you're just genuinely being nice and then something happens and you realize there was a reason why they were so nice. Yeah.
Or yeah. Anyway, um there's a lot that we shared today. Any other little golden nuggets that you have for us, Amber?
I don't know. I don't know if I have anything left in my glitter bag. Um, really is like summing up. Just, you know, be kind to other people. Kindness doesn't cost anything. It is absolutely free. So why not give as much of that away as you can? And you'd be surprised just how much kindness you receive in return. And this is whether you're transgender, straight, or whatever you are. Go through your day being kind to everybody you come through. You have no idea what they're going through. They might be like one bad thing away from suicide. Why are you going to be that one bad thing? Just be kind. Be glitter.
I love
Yeah. Don't
that.
gooey, goopy stuff. No, be glitter. Just spread glitter in the world. And you know what? What an amazing planet we would have to live on if everybody just did that. And how incredibly simple is
Yeah,
that to do? Like you control it. Anybody can just go through life with kindness, laugh, joke around, compliment
yeah.
people, be kind. Do you
We
have a
could
mean
have
thought?
big world parties instead of big world wars.
You have a mean thought? Keep it to yourself. Replace it with a kind thought. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
ooh, why did I wear that today? Don't say that.
Yeah.
I really like your hair today. Focus on what's good about that person, what you can compliment about that person, what you can uplift that person about.
Yeah.
Again, be glitter, and you'll be surprised how much glitter people throw on you.
I love that. What do you need, Amber? How can we help you? And how do we reach you?
I, as far as what I need, it's more a want than a need. Um, I, I just have a desire to be able to have platforms like this. I'm so appreciative that you reached out to me and like, Amber, would you mind doing this? I am so appreciative of that. I love an opportunity to hopefully say something that makes somebody's life a little better. Whether it's somebody in the transgender community and it gives them a better view of their own selves, makes them more comfortable in their own skin, whether it's an ally and it inspires them to be a better ally, or maybe even a, a biased person hears me and it makes them rethink and maybe it softens their bias even a little bit. So if I have the opportunity to have platforms to do that, I'd love to do that for the rest of my life. It's just, kind of like you give me an opportunity to be glitter in the world, to try and, inspire people. And it's weird because when I was Amber Foreman in the closet, I used to Google myself. And by the way, my name is spelled like the number four, Fourman. Most of you are running, you hear Amber Foreman, you're running to Foreman or Foreman. Four, like number four, Foreman. I used to Google myself to make sure I was in the closet and didn't show up in Google searches and there wasn't any connection to my dead name. And I was having a conversation with somebody, and it was kind of the same thing. Like they're telling me about somebody they inspired, and I'm like, well, tell them to feel free to connect with me. And so, well, I don't know what social media on. I'm like, well, I'm sure if they Google me, they're gonna find me. And I did it like I Googled myself. I'm like, oh shit, like I'm like all over the place. So if you Google Amber Foreman, spell my name correctly, you're going to get links to my LinkedIn. You're going to get links to Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, however you want to connect. Um, I'm easy to find, and by design, I'm glad I'm easy to find. Because again, I'm passionate about transgender advocacy. I am passionate about transgender youth, about them having a better life than we were given, about them um, finding how to be supported, about inspiring parents of transgender youth to be support, to understand the statistics. You are the most important person in your transgender child's life. You literally probably the one factor that can determine whether they live to become an adult by being supportive, or they take their own life because they just don't see a positive life in their future. And I know some supportive transgender parents, their children are doing so well, so fabulously well. And I know with supportive ones, and you can just read it in the body language and all that. So, like I said, please give me some platforms to help transgender people, but especially transgender youth, transgender parents navigate life so that they not only survive childhood, but they can thrive as transgender adults. That's kind of what, again, don't need what I want.
I love this. Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thank you. Again, I so appreciate the opportunity. So enjoyed chatting with you. And, it doesn't matter if 5 people see this or 5,000 people see it or 5 million. If somewhere along the line you and I were able to, bring some joy to somebody's life, then it was well worth the time we spent chatting together. Plus, I enjoyed chatting with you so much. So that was.
I love it too. We'll have to do it again. Well, thank you. I will introduce you to Allie West. And when this comes out, I will let you know. And I will make other clips and post them as shorts out of the long thing as well. So any subscribe, like, share that we can get, the more it can get out there.
Yeah, as you give me the links, I think you already know, I'm going to put them up on my social platforms, and hopefully those, some people will repost and share it, depending on the platform, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. It's kind of how we can bring joy into somebody's life is, doing our part of trying to increase where the message goes.
Love it. Thank you. You have yourself a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, please.
Thank you, you too. It's been so much fun.